What do you think kills a town? A natural disaster, poverty, war. In Illinois, a lot of towns die for reasons that feel even more ruthless: convenience and silence. A railroad line runs a few miles the other way, a river changes its course, a major buyer stops purchasing the coal, or a huge science project gets built right where people are living. And that is it. No big explosion. Just families packing up, doors shutting, and a few years later, nobody even remembers there were schools, hotels, churches, and family dinners here. This video is 11 ghost towns in Illinois, places not everyone finds, because most people drive right past and assume it is just empty space. Number 11. Vishnu Springs. You would never guess this place is in Illinois if you just saw it in a photo. It feels like a resort that got swallowed by the woods and then quietly forgotten. Vishnu Springs sits down in a tucked-away valley in McDonough County near the small village of Tennessee, Illinois, far enough off the main path that it does not announce itself. It just waits. And the one thing that still stands out is the Capitol Hotel, a 3-story building that looks like it is holding its breath. Back around 1880, people built Vishnu Springs as a health retreat. The whole pitch was simple and kind of timeless. The spring water was supposed to help you feel better, so why not turn the valley into a getaway? For a while, it worked. At its peak, the place was pulling in roughly 3,000 visitors a year, which is a lot when you picture it happening out here surrounded by trees and gravel roads. It was not just one building either. There were places to eat, a blacksmith shop, a fishing pond, even a racetrack, plus a small school. The Capitol Hotel was the centerpiece with about 20 rooms, a kitchen, a ballroom, and spaces where you can almost hear the old conversations if you try. Then reality did what it always does. The location that made it feel magical also made it inconvenient. By the 1920s, Vishnu Springs was basically done. People tried to revive it in different ways later on, including a commune era in the 1970s, but the momentum never came back. By the early 1980s, it was abandoned again, and this time it stuck. There is also a story locals repeat about a serious carousel accident in 1903, the kind of moment that stains a place in memory, even when the years keep moving. Today, the land is tied to Western Illinois University through the Ira and Riatha T. Post Wildlife Sanctuary. The hotel remains the symbol, but it is fragile, and visitors are typically not allowed upstairs for safety. If you ever go, it is usually through rare open house days, not a regular tourist stop. And when you leave the valley, you carry the same thought. If a whole resort can fade into the trees, what does the next town on our list have hiding in plain sight? Number 10. St. Omer. You can drive through Coles County and never realize you just passed a town that used to exist. That is the strange thing about St. Omer. There is no abandoned main street, no empty storefront photo op, just farmland, quiet roads, and then one place that still feels like it remembers everything. The St. Omer Cemetery. St. Omer began in 1852, back when a town could be a small cluster of buildings and a big sense of hope. It had the basics people needed: a post office, a store, a blacksmith shop, and a church. At its busiest, it was still tiny, with some accounts saying roughly 40 to 50 families. But that is enough to picture real life. Mail getting picked up, supplies changing hands, the sound of ironwork from the blacksmith. The kind of place where everybody knows your story before you finish telling it. Then the future showed up on steel wheels and did not stop here. The railroad went elsewhere, and when the tracks miss you, the traffic misses you too. Business dries up, families relocate, and the town becomes a name people used to say. By the 1880s, St. Omer had essentially faded out, leaving the cemetery as its most visible footprint. And inside that cemetery is the detail that turns a simple ghost town into local folklore: a grave tied to the name Caroline Barnes. The stone is topped with a sphere, and the date carved on it reads February 31st, 1882, a day that does not exist. One impossible date is all it takes for rumors to bloom. People call it the witch grave. People debate whether it was an error, a prank, or something darker. If you visit, treat it like what it is, a rural cemetery surrounded by open country. Walk lightly, be respectful, and look around. If a whole town can vanish until a single strange date becomes its loudest voice, what will the next place on our list leave behind? Number 9. Old Valmeyer. Old Valmeyer is one of the strangest ghost towns in Illinois because it did not die slowly. It got erased fast by water in a lifetime that people here still remember. This was a small Mississippi River town in Monroe County, the kind of place where you can pretty much guess the rhythm of the week. Farms nearby, commutes toward the St. Louis area, neighbors who actually wave. Before everything changed, it was home to around 900 people. Not huge, but big enough that it felt like a real community, not just a dot on a map. Then came the Great Flood of 1993, and this is the part that still hits hard. On August 1st, 1993, levees failed near Columbia, Illinois, and floodwater poured into the bottomlands. Valmeyer was right there in the floodplain. The water did not just get high, it took the town. Streets, yards, the normal little landmarks people build their lives around, all of it ended up underwater. After that, the town made a choice most places only talk about. Instead of rebuilding in the same spot and hoping next time would be different, residents decided to move. New Valmeyer was built about 2 miles east, up on higher ground, far above the floodplain. FEMA helped support a buyout plan, and within about 2 years, much of Old Valmeyer was purchased and demolished. That is the twist people do not expect. The ghost town is not a pile of ruins. It is mostly open space now, intentionally left that way, like the land itself is a warning sign. So if you go looking for Old Valmeyer today, you are not hunting spooky buildings. You are standing in a wide, flat, quiet place, trying to imagine a town where there is mostly nothing left to hold on to. And that raises a question. If a town can disappear and leave behind only emptiness, what happens when the next place on our list vanishes but keeps its scars standing? Number 8. Kaskaskia. Imagine a town so old and important it once ran the whole state, and then a river basically picked it up and moved it somewhere else. That is Kaskaskia. It is one of those places that makes you stare at a map like it is playing a joke on you. Kaskaskia sits in Randolph County, down where the Mississippi has always had a big personality. Long before Illinois was even Illinois, this was part of French Illinois, a settlement that mattered because of trade, travel, and the simple fact that water was the highway back then. Later it got an even bigger title. In 1809, it became the capital of the Illinois Territory, and when Illinois became a state in 1818, Kaskaskia was the first state capital. For a moment, this was the center of the story. Some accounts say the population once pushed around 7,000. That is hard to picture now because today the place feels like a whisper. The first big shift was political. In 1819, the capital moved to Vandalia. But the real knockout punch came from nature. In 1881, a massive flood helped the Mississippi change its course. The river cut into the area, wiped out large parts of town, and ended up flowing on the east side of Kaskaskia. In plain language, the river flipped the script. Kaskaskia became isolated, basically turned into an island, and from that point on, it was living on borrowed time. Here is the part people love because it sounds impossible. Kaskaskia is still Illinois, legally and politically, but the easiest way to reach it makes it feel like you are coming in through Missouri. It is a little geographic prank that never stopped being real, and the shrinking kept going. Today, the population is about 21 people, a former capital reduced to a tiny community surrounded by water and history still taking hits from floods even in modern times. So when you stand there, you do not just feel abandoned, you feel humbled. If a capital can be erased by a river changing its mind, what chance does the next town on our list have when the economy, the roads, or the rails decide to move on? Number 7. New Philadelphia. If you pull up to New Philadelphia expecting creepy buildings and broken windows, you are going to think you are in the wrong place. It looks like ordinary farmland, quiet, flat, almost too normal. But that is the hook. This ghost town is not standing above ground anymore, it is hiding under it. New Philadelphia sits in Pike County, about 2 miles east of a small town called Barry. And the reason people still talk about it has nothing to do with jump scares. It has to do with one man making an impossible life feel real. In 1836, a formerly enslaved man named Free Frank McWhorter legally laid out and registered this town. That detail matters. It is widely recognized as the first town in the United States to be platted and recorded by an African American before the Civil War. Frank did not just build a place to live. He used land sales and business to buy freedom, including for members of his own family. Imagine turning a map and a handful of lots into somebody's second chance. For a while, it worked. New Philadelphia became a small mixed community, black and white families living in the same frontier town. After the Civil War, the population is often described as peaking around 160 people. Not huge, but big enough to have a real heartbeat. Roads, homes, daily routines, the normal noise of people trying to build something that lasts. Then came the moment that killed it, the kind of moment that feels unfair because it is so simple. In 1869, the Hannibal and Naples Railroad went through the area, but bypassed New Philadelphia. The action moved toward Barry. If the train does not stop near you, commerce dries up, families leave, stores close, the town fades. By the late 1800s, it was dissolving, and by the 1920s, it was basically gone. But it did not vanish cleanly. Archaeologists later found traces of streets and homes under the soil, bits of pottery and glass, proof that a town is still there, just buried. Today it is a National Historic Site. No ticket booth, no skyline, just land and a story. And that story leaves you with a question. If a place built as a pathway to freedom can be erased by a railroad choosing another route, what does the next town on our list lose when the world reroutes around it? Number 6, Coltonville. Coltonville is the kind of ghost town that did not die because the land went bad or the mine ran out. It died because it lost a power fight, and once you hear the story, it feels almost modern, like a small-town version of politics with the volume turned up. Back in the early days of DeKalb County, Coltonville was a real contender. It sat in DeKalb Township, near what is now the Sycamore area, and it had one thing every young county needed: a guy with influence. Rufus Colton ran a tavern, helped anchor early community life, and he was the first clerk of the court. In 1837, the county's very first court session was held in his house. That is not a small detail. That is the kind of moment that makes a place feel like it is about to become important. So in 1839, when the county needed to pick a county seat, Colton pushed hard for Coltonville, and here is where the story gets messy in a way people remember. Accounts say he set things up so the court met at his home again, and a vote happened, with notice mostly reaching the Coltonville side. It is the classic move. If you control the room, you control the outcome. But then comes the scene that makes this town feel like a movie. The court is gathered, the plan is moving, and the sheriff shows up with an order that basically says, "Not so fast." The courthouse is going to be built in Sycamore. The Coltonville maneuver gets tossed, the decision swings, and just like that, the future reroutes away from Coltonville. Once Sycamore became the county seat, Coltonville lost the one thing that could have kept it alive: traffic, jobs, importance. It faded along with other rival spots until there was almost nothing left to point to on the ground. Today, the town is mostly a name you catch on a road like Coltonville Road, and a bit of local history that still stings if you like underdogs. And it makes you wonder, if one sheriff with one order can erase a town's destiny, what happens to the next place on our list when the forces are even bigger than local politics? Number 5, Benjamin Village. Now, if you want a ghost town that feels like it is holding one last breath, Benjaminville is it. Most places like this leave a few crumbling walls or a street grid you can still trace. Benjaminville, mostly leaves you one lonely building in the middle of farmland, like the prairie decided to keep a single sentence from a whole vanished story. Benjaminville was a small Quaker settlement in McLean County, out near Holder and not far from Bloomington. It formed in the 1850s when families moved onto that flat, rich Illinois ground and tried to build a community that matched their values. Life here was not about flash, it was about routine and faith. And the place that anchored everything was the meeting house and the burial ground beside it. There was an early meeting house around 1859, but the structure that still stands today was built in 1874. And it is exactly what you would expect from a Quaker building. Plain, practical, quiet. No big towers begging for attention. Just a simple space where people gathered, made decisions, raised kids, mourned neighbors, and kept going through long winters and long harvest seasons. Then the thing that decides the fate of so many Illinois towns happened again. The railroad did not come. Sources describe how plans tied to something called the Lake Erie Railroad never materialized through Benjaminville. And when the rail line misses you, growth misses you too. Shops do not open. Young families leave for places with better access. Little by little, the town loses its reason to exist. By the late 1800s, Benjaminville was fading, and the land started turning back into what Illinois does best: fields. Here's the detail that makes it sting. A wagon shop that was still around burned in 1981, which made the meeting house feel even more like the last survivor. It is now recognized on the National Register of Historic Places, listed in 1983, not because it is grand, but because it is one of the only things left that can prove Benjaminville was real. If you visit, you are not visiting ruins. You are visiting quiet, and when you stand there, you cannot help but ask, if a town can shrink until only a plain meeting house is left to speak for it, what will the next town on our list leave behind when even the last building cannot hang on? Number 4. Weston is a ghost town with a plot you almost do not believe the first time you hear it. This place did not get abandoned because jobs dried up or the road moved away. Weston basically voted itself out of existence, and the reason was science. Weston used to sit in DuPage County out in the western suburbs near Batavia and Warrenville, right where Fermilab is now. The wild part is that Weston was not some dusty 1800 settlement. It was young. It formed around 1963, built out of a housing subdivision, and people talked about it like the start of a brand new city. Some plans even dreamed big, as in 50,000 residents someday. You can feel that optimism, new streets, new houses, that whole post-war "we are building the future" vibe. Then the future showed up, just not the way anyone expected. On December 16, 1966, the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission picked this area for the National Accelerator Laboratory, the project that would become Fermilab. If you live in a small town and you hear a massive federal project is coming, your first thought is usually, we just got saved. Jobs, growth, a reason to exist. People in Weston reportedly celebrated, and then the details landed. The site was huge. It needed the land. It was not going next door. It was going right on top of Weston. So the town that wanted a boost got an eviction notice instead. Homes were bought out. Families moved, the community thinned out until there was basically nobody left. Weston eventually dissolved as a municipality, and by the time the 1970 census rolled around, the official story was simple and brutal: no residents. Here is the twist that makes it feel even stranger. Weston did not disappear into weeds. Parts of it were absorbed. Some of the old houses remained inside the lab grounds and were used as an academic village for scientists and visitors, like a neighborhood that got repurposed into a living annex for particle physics. So when you think about Weston, you are not imagining a haunted street. You are imagining a town that got traded for a telescope into the universe. And it makes you wonder, what is scarier? A town dying by neglect, or a town being erased by something the whole country calls progress? Now, the next place on our list disappears for a very different reason. Number 3, Griggsville Landing. Griggsville Landing is one of those places where the river used to decide who mattered. If you stood on the Illinois River here in the 1830s, you would not be thinking ghost town. You would be thinking this is a stop you cannot skip. Steamboats came through, farmers brought goods down to the water. There were warehouses, a boatyard, a hotel, even a gristmill. It was a little river economy packed into one narrow stretch of shoreline, running on schedules nobody wrote down, just the rhythm of the river. And then there is the detail that still feels like a prop from another century. A lime kiln. Not a cute tourist replica, a real one, sitting near the bluffs like it has been waiting for someone to notice it. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources describes the Griggsville Landing lime kiln as one of the better preserved examples of its kind in the state, and records suggest it was built sometime in the 1850s. Back then, burning limestone into lime mattered. Lime was used for mortar and plaster, for building, for making things stick together. So even in a small river landing, you had this gritty little industry humming along, feeding off the same river traffic that brought everything else. But here's the part that always happens. The thing that made the landing powerful was also the thing that made it fragile. Once railroads started taking over freight and travel, steamboat stops like this lost their purpose. Commerce shifted inland. Nearby places with better rail connections, like Valley City, pulled activity away. The river did not stop flowing, but the business did. Griggsville Landing faded out, not with one dramatic disaster, but with the slow, quiet loss of relevance. Today, you do not come here to walk a main street. Most of that is gone. What you get is landscape and leftovers. You are near Ray Norbert State Fish and Wildlife Area, so it is woods, water, and that feeling that nature has reclaimed the schedule. And then if you know where to look, you find the lime kiln. It sits there like an open mouth in the hillside, a reminder that this was once a working place, not just a pretty view. And it makes you wonder, if a whole town can disappear and leave behind one stubborn piece of industry, what kind of clue will the next town on our list leave when it vanishes for a completely different reason? Number 2. Jugtown. Jugtown does not look like a ghost town in the way people expect. There is no crumbling main street, no leaning saloon sign. Jugtown was more like a pop-up factory community that lived fast, worked hard, and then disappeared so cleanly you almost have to be told it was ever there. This little settlement sat out in rural Grundy County near the edge of what used to be Goose Lake, about 6 miles east of Morris, and the whole reason it existed was dirt. Good clay. In the mid-1800s, a potter named William White teamed up with a Chicago financier, Charles Walker, and they built a serious operation out here. They made stoneware crocks and, more importantly, drain tile, the kind of clay pipe farmers use to dry out wet ground and turn prairie into productive fields. By 1860, the investment was around $12,000, which was real money back then. Census records describe the stoneware side running with 6 workers and turning out about 75 tons a year, worth around $5,000 annually. The drain tile side was the monster. It used a 10-horsepower steam engine, employed around 40 people, and produced about 2,800 tons a year, valued at roughly $28,000. For a place in the middle of nowhere, that is wild. And Jugtown was not just a factory, it had the bones of a tiny town. Small houses, a boarding house, even a shared space. People treated like a public square, with a flagpole and a community well. Across the road there was a school and a garden. One source even puts the population at about 114 in 1860. That is enough people to feel like you are building something permanent. Then the cracks showed. The Illinois DNR says the business struggled and eventually failed. It was too far from the I&M Canal, roads were rough, and the Panic of 1857 hit at the worst possible time. Money tightened, creditors fought, lawsuits followed, and by 1866 the kilns went cold. When the factory died, Jugtown died with it. Today, what is left are archaeological sites inside Goose Lake Prairie. No storefronts, no porch swings, just traces in the soil. And it makes you think, if a whole community can rise and fall on clay and a steam engine, What does the final town on our list leave behind when the thing that built it collapses overnight? Number 1. Cardiff. Cardiff is the kind of Illinois ghost town that feels like it lived an entire lifetime and fast forward. It was not ancient history. It was a boomtown built on coal, and it went from new and rising to gone in what feels like one long blink. Cardiff popped up in Livingston County in 1899, basically created to feed the mines and the company behind them. And when the coal was good, everything happened fast. Within a few years, the town was estimated at over 2,000 people. The mine could put hundreds of men to work, and at its peak, it was pulling something like 1,200 to 1,600 tons of coal a day. That kind of output does not just build a job site, it builds a whole little world. Cardiff had the usual boomtown essentials: a hotel, a company store, schools, churches, businesses. The place had momentum. Then came the moment that changed the tone. In March 1903, a series of explosions tore through the mine over several days. 9 miners were killed, and accounts describe people being trapped underground. Even if a town keeps going after something like that, it never feels the same again. It becomes the story people retell at kitchens and porches, the story that makes parents look at the mine and feel 2 emotions at once: gratitude and fear. Cardiff did keep going. The company sank a new shaft and tried to keep the engine running, but the real collapse was quieter, and that is usually how these towns die. In 1910, the Wabash Railroad, a major customer, said it would stop buying Cardiff coal because the quality had declined. Once your biggest buyer walks away, the clock starts ticking. And on September 21st, 1912, the mine shut down. After that, Cardiff got hollow fast. People left because there was no reason to stay. By 1920, only a small handful were still around. Today, the town is mostly memory and leftovers, bits of old sidewalks, scattered foundations, and those slag hills that look like the land still carries ash from the boom. There is also a memorial marker that remembers the mine explosions, and it hits like a final punctuation mark. Cardiff is not just a place that vanished. It is a reminder that a town built on one industry can feel unstoppable, right up until the day the lights go out. Illinois has a lot of ghost towns, but these 11 places prove they do not all die the same way. Some got drowned by a river that changed its mind. Some got bypassed by railroads, erased by politics, or quietly buried under farmland. And some, like Cardiff, burned bright on one industry until the moment the market said no more. My takeaway is simple. A town is not just buildings. It is access, opportunity, and resilience. When any one of those collapses, everything else follows. Personally, I do not see these places as spooky. I see them as honest. They remind me that progress always chooses a direction, and when it does, someone gets left behind. The lesson is to diversify, adapt early, and never assume busy today means safe tomorrow.